kids, I hope that's all right. One time, their mother and I were driving them down the motorway and decided to stop off at the services. It was a sunny, warm day, so we thought it might be nice to sit outside at one of the picnic tables. Helen volunteered to go and get the sandwiches in one of the shops, while I stayed with the two-year-olds. No sooner as she left, than the boys both ran off at full pelt in diametrically opposite directions. Louis towards the lorry park, George towards the actual motorway. In a terrible Sophie's Choice moment, I had to run first after one, scoop him up from under a looming juggernaut, then double back to prevent the second one, George, from running over a bank onto the M1. With a child under each arm, I just managed to plonk them back on the picnic table and wipe the profuse sweat from my face when Helen came back. Everything okay? Yeah, I've just been sitting here, yeah. So that was a close shave. Around the same time, we had a birthday party for them in our front room. My recollection of the day is quite hazy, as I dulled it with wine. But I remember hiding in the kitchen and then putting my head round the door to witness a scene that could easily have been from a Hieronymus Bosch painting, one of the ones that got banned by the Pope. There were 32-year-olds swarming everywhere. The children's entertainer, who looked like the weird clown from David Lynch's Lost Highway, was playing Saturday Night by Whigfield, but a speeded up version, while his foam machine had filled the living room with 20 inches of foam. Kids were leaping into the air, like people pogoing in a mosh pit, presumably doing so to avoid being drowned by the ever-rising foam. Some were on the sofa, which had become a hellish trampoline. A small girl was urinating against the French window. The dog was getting involved. There's a part of me that's still in that room. The 2005 Ashes series was famous, but was it as good as the 2008 Ashes series? This took place in Chorlton-cum-Hardy and involved George playing a full test match series against Louis. It was an epic contest as two heavyweights of the game locked antlers. George won the first test, Louis won tests 2 and 3. We cut to test match 4. Louis had posted an impressive first innings tally of 75. She turned a lot of boundaries, hitting the side fence by the shed, hitting the flower pots outside the back window, a couple of 6 and outs, garage roof, over the back fence onto the road, that sort of thing. George capitulated miserably in his knock. Then Louis posted a challenging target. Bottom line, George was left with an unlikely chase and was 9 wickets down, a good 60 short. It seemed a regulation win for Louis. But then George hunkered down with Jeff Boycott-esque determination. He chipped away at the target. 40, 30, 20. Could it happen? As the sun began to sink west over Old Trafford, he got to within 2 of the target. All 4 results were still possible. And then a leg break behind his legs. Maybe it hit one of the cracks in the decaying wicket. He went for glory, a sweep for 4, but missed the ball, and it inexorably clipped the leg stump. The crowd went silent. Well, it wasn't a crowd, that's probably why. But, the bale cascaded through the air. The series was lost. And then the fun started. George prostrated himself on the floor, punching the dirt, sobbing, while Louis ran to all corners of the garden, clutching the badge on his shirt. Then George got up and started chasing Louis, swinging the bat like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Louis was running for his life now. The neighbours were running out to see what the commotion was. The dog was getting involved. Surely a lifetime ban from the ICC for George. course, 5 minutes later, they were the best of friends again. That's the thing with their fraternal combats. They're forgotten almost as quickly as they flare up. I have so many amazing memories of my time spent with these two. They've always been lively, funny, enthusiastic. They are a pleasure to know. The happiest memories of my life have entailed watching films and sport with them, sitting in restaurants, cafes, beaches, ski slopes, walking or driving back and forth here and there. I'm so proud of their achievements, but also of their characters, their humour, their kindness, their engagement with ideas and culture, and with friends. As an only child, I've also marvelled at their twinness, the brotherly bond between them. There really are two of them. I won't say that word again, sorry. I do apologise. I don't know whether the parts are greater than the whole or vice versa, but they are two great guys, and they've got a wonderful collection of friends, many of whom are here today. All of whom, probably. Long may these friendships continue, and they will continue for sure. Happy birthday, boys. Cheers. Who's next to the top?
Tough act to follow. Ladies coming up. Hello everyone. First off, I hope under George's advice you've all had your substantial meal. First off, I think a few thanks are in order. So first off to Helen and Jim for putting this night together. Trying to get hold of either Louis or George these days is somewhat of an impossible task. And then trying to get them to agree on something is about as hard as Ed Cairns on a night out. So thanks to you for making this happen. I guess we also owe a thanks to the Poysers themselves. Thanks to Louis for appointing himself as the resident travel agent of his uni friends, managing to send a link of TripAdvisor hotels in Manchester to the Facebook group chat. I'm not sure what we would have done without you, Louis. Thanks to George for sorting out everything else. Okay, so the Poysers, George and Louis, Louis and George. How to summarise them, how to capture them. I don't know many twins, but I think it'd be fair to say that George and Louis have mastered the twin relationship pretty damn well. A fierce loyalty, a healthy competitiveness, and a lot of fucking arguing over nothing. I first met the Poysers at around the age of 8, at a rehearsal at the Royal Northern College of Music, in which they were both playing the trumpet and I was playing the trombone. They were sat right behind me, and George was annoyed at the fact that Louis was sat too close to him and encroaching on his own seat. I didn't realise at the time that this was the start of a long friendship with two wonderfully pretty humans.
My path first crossed with the Poysers at the tender age of 11. Life was different back then. Louis looked far more similar to George in the absence of the shit moustache that has recently taken up residence on his head. Zach Ball's hair had not yet begun to resemble a dishevelled mop. And Gideon Blankstone had not yet exposed himself to the whole of Year 9 with an outrageous naked mirror selfie posted on the Genius Young internet. In those days, when Louis didn't spend every Wednesday night with his left nostril glued to a popper, and George had not yet learned to smash windows by giving himself high catches with a plastic water bottle, it was clear to all that this hard-working and innocent pair of twins were destined for greatness. How the mighty have fallen. Back in Year 7 though, starring roles in the Year 6 play and a strong academic record gave the impression that there was nothing they couldn't do. An impression which was quickly shattered by a brief dabble with the MGS rugby team. Severely unnerved by either the mud, the cold, or the latent homoeroticism, the boys decided on a swift return to the more sheltered world of cross-country, Mozart, and Latin.
So, a lot of our years at lower school were spent travelling around the country with a man named Mr. Short. He was a man of tradition, a man of history, and a man who was very much part of the fabric of Manchester Grammar. A man who should have stopped working at MGS probably around 1957. In lower school, the Poysers were explicitly over-keen in pretty much everything they did. In stark contrast to the likes of Cyrus Sharifi, Jarvis Carr, and even Gideon Blankstone, who all adopted the laissez-faire approach to school. The Poysers did pretty much every activity there was to do. So when Mr. Short presented the idea of squash to us in year 5, the Poysers were of course going to sign up. In his later years, as the role of head of squash, and despite the fact that another staff member had to drive the minibus because he was too old, he would fish us out of class across the country to play around 10 minutes of squash, usually against someone who looked as if they were playing with their left hand. And the final straw was, for most of us, in year 7,